As the sun dipped below the jagged silhouette of the distant mountains, the forgotten town of Hollow Ridge emerged from the shadows, bathed in the faint, ethereal glow of twilight. John, a cowboy weathered by time and solitude, pulled up to the old town square, his truck groaning to a stop. Dust swirled around the vehicle, settling in a fine layer over everything, as if the town itself was trying to reclaim him. Beside him, Shadow, his loyal German shepherd, sat alert, his ears pricked forward with an unspoken vigilance that mirrored John's own guarded anticipation. The wind whispered through the decrepit structures that lined the street, each abandoned house holding a story that yearned to be told, a history buried beneath layers of decay. John stepped out, the clinking of his spurs punctuating the profound silence that enveloped Hollow Ridge. A rusted sign creaked in protest as it swung lazily in the breeze. "For rent, entire town, $99 a night," it read, an invitation as beguiling as it was strange, promising secrets that begged to be unraveled. Shadow trotted ahead, nose to the ground, the epitome of canine intuition. His path led them to the largest house, a Victorian relic whose grandeur had long since faded. As John approached the front steps, a chill that had nothing to do with the night air washed over him, a feeling that they were not alone, that the town's forgotten. The sun dipped below the horizon as John and Shadow entered Hollow Ridge, casting the ghost town in a silvery twilight that seemed to blur the line between the tangible and the spectral. The air was thick with a weight that seemed to press down on them, as if the atmosphere itself carried the burdens of forgotten souls. Each step John took on the cracked, dusty road felt deliberate, as though he was threading through the very fabric of time and memory. Shadow, ever alert, trotted beside him, nose twitching, ears perked, his presence a comforting promise of loyalty and protection. The rustle of leaves whispering in the wind was the only sound, a soft, mournful melody that seemed to echo with the whispers of those who once called this place home. Buildings loomed in the shadows, remnants of a bygone era, their windows like hollow eyes watching with silent judgment. An old saloon, its sign hanging askew, seemed to sag under memories of laughter and sorrow, while the skeletal structure of a church stood defiant against the encroaching years, its bell long silenced. John's gaze lingered on these relics, each structure speaking a language of decay and abandonment. Yet there was a strange allure, a pull that urged him forward, whispering promises of stories untold, secrets waiting in the shadows. Shadow, sensing the gravity of the place, pressed closer to John's side, his fur bristling with a heightened awareness that mirrored John's own unease. As they approached the imposing Victorian house, a sense of déjà vu washed over John, as if he'd walked this path before in dreams or distant memories. The house stood like a sentinel of time, its grandeur faded yet not forgotten, every creak of its boards and rustle of its shingles resonating with history. Shadow halted at the steps, his eyes fixed on the entrance, an unspoken challenge in his stance. John paused, feeling the chill intensify, a foreboding presence that seemed to seep from the very walls of the house. The door, slightly ajar, beckoned them with an eerie invitation, daring them to delve deeper into the mysteries it promised to reveal. John's hesitation was fleeting, his resolve steeled by a curious blend of courage and necessity. He placed a hand on Shadow's head, the familiar gesture offering mutual reassurance. As the door creaked open, the air inside was different, charged with an energy that was both oppressive and inviting. Shadows danced along the walls, moving with a life of their own, while the faint scent of lavender and dust layered the air, evoking a melancholic nostalgia that tugged at the edges of John's consciousness. Each room they passed told a story of its own, furnishings draped in sheets like ghosts of their former selves, relics of a life once vibrant, now frozen in time. With every step deeper into the house, John felt the past pressing closer, the weight of lives lived and lost, echoing in the silence. Shadow's growl rumbled low and steady, a sound that resonated with fierce defiance against whatever unseen forces lurked within. John, grounded by the unwavering presence of his companion, pressed on, his mind a whirlwind of questions and possibilities. The house, with its secrets woven into the tapestry of its walls, seemed to breathe around them, a living entity filled with echoes and memories. Together, man and dog ventured further into the unknown, their journey through Hollow Ridge only beginning, the promise of discovery and revelation calling them onward into the depths of its enigmatic heart. The flickering twilight cast long shadows in the Victorian house as John stood in the threshold, breathing in the palpable silence. The air was thick with the scent of aged wood and the subtle mildew of neglected corridors. Shadow, ever vigilant, padded softly by his side, her ears perked, drawing the occasional growl from her throat as they moved deeper into the heart of the house. The walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own, whispering secrets only the lost and forgotten could hear. Every creak of the floorboards, each flutter of moth-eaten drapery, was a testament to the passage of time, unyielding and relentless. As they ventured further, the interior unfolded like a sepia-toned photograph, faded yet rich with detail and history. The parlor, with its sprawling Persian rug and grand piano, stood preserved in a tableau of elegance gone awry. Cobwebs draped the chandelier overhead, their delicate strands glinting like gossamer in the waning light. Shadow's hackles rose as they approached a sideboard cluttered with dusty frames, each portrait within staring back with eyes that seemed to implore and accuse in equal measure. John paused, feeling the weight of countless lives, stories fragmenting like forgotten melodies in the brittle air. It was a tableau of memories, all devoid of laughter, the silence echoing louder than any spoken word. In the dimness of the hallway, they found themselves drawn to a door slightly ajar, its mahogany surface polished to an eerie luster. Beyond its threshold lay a study, a room of intellect and introspection where shadows amassed like sentinels. A massive mahogany desk loomed in the center, its surface cluttered with papers scattered as if by a sudden departure. Shadow hesitated, sniffing the air with cautious curiosity, her instincts on full alert. John felt the shift in the room, an undercurrent of emotion that tugged at the edge of his consciousness, stirring something deep within him. He was struck by the ghostly resonance of a place once vibrant with purpose, now reduced to whispers of its former vitality. The room burgeoned with an indefinable tension, a symphony of absence that played upon John's senses. He moved toward the desk, drawn to a solitary object that glinted in the lamplight, a brass key, its surface worn by time, yet gleaming with an allure that defied its simple function. The key seemed to pulse with a quiet energy, a promise or perhaps a warning. Its presence evoked an unsettling question about who or what remained tethered to this house. Shadow's growl broke the silence, a low, rumbling caution that resonated deeply in the chamber's stillness. John picked up the key, feeling its cold weight settle in his palm, a tangible link to the mysteries that enshrouded Hollow Ridge. With the key in hand, John and Shadow retreated to the foyer, the weight of the house pressing upon their departure. The Victorian facade loomed behind them, a silhouette against the deepening dusk, as if bidding them to return, to unlock the secrets nestled within its time-worn walls. The bond between man and dog was palpable, a silent pact forged in trust and mutual understanding. As they stepped into the night, Shadow's eyes glinted in the moonlight, filled with an intelligence and loyalty that spoke to the depths of their connection. The evening air was cool and crisp, a stark contrast to the stifling atmosphere they had just left behind. Hollow Ridge lay sprawling before them, a spectral canvas of enigmas beckoning them to unravel its mysteries. The wind twisted through the streets of Hollow Ridge, a mournful howl that carried with it voices that seemed to echo from another time. John, his silhouette sharp against the dimming sky, stood still for a moment, listening to the symphony of whispers that danced around him. Shadow, ever attuned to the unseen, stood alert by his side, ears pricked toward the shifting shadows. Each gust carried with it a tale, snippets of conversations long past, woven into the fabric of the ghost town's very essence. The cowboy's mind, seasoned by years of solitude and introspection, felt strangely at home amidst this spectral symphony. He could almost discern patterns in the chaos, a narrative of sorts penned by those who once walked these streets. As John moved, the brass key he'd discovered in the mansion weighed heavier in his pocket, its significance both elusive and profound. The night's chill crept into his bones, yet each step forward was driven by an unspoken promise that hovered just out of reach, much like the memories hidden within the town. Shadow, ever vigilant, led the way, his instincts a guiding compass through the maze of history and mystery. The dog's low growls reverberated with a protective energy, grounding John in the present, even as the past threatened to envelop him. Together, they navigated the cobblestone streets, each corner revealing fragments of a life once lived, a history both intimate and universal. They came upon what might have once been the heart of Hollow Ridge, a sprawling garden, now overgrown and wild. Moonlight played tricks on the foliage, transforming each vine and shadow into ethereal figures that seemed to sway in time with the wind. The garden, like the mansion, was locked in a time loop, beauty and decay intertwined. John knelt by an ancient sundial, its inscriptions worn, yet still telling tales of sunlit days, now forever past. Shadow paced the perimeter, his nose brushing against the overgrown grass, uncovering scents buried for decades. To John, the garden felt like a sacred space, a bridge between what was and what could be, if only the stories could be unearthed. An old bench, swallowed by ivy, beckoned John to sit. As he did, the sensation was not of wood against flesh, but of something deeper, a connection to the souls who once found solace here. He let his fingers trace the patterns of leaves engraved in the armrest, feeling the grooves like ancient runes, telling secrets to the ones who dared to listen. Shadow settled at his feet, eyes scanning the shadows, ever ready, ever watchful. In that moment, John felt a kinship with the town, a recognition of shared solitude and resilience. The stories whispered in the wind became a balm, a reminder that he and Shadow were merely the latest in a long line of seekers drawn to Hollow Ridge by its enigmatic allure. As the wind's symphony swelled, John closed his eyes, allowing the echoes to fill him. He sensed the presence of others, lost souls tethered to their unfinished stories, yearning for release. The brass key in his pocket pulsed with warmth, a tangible link to the mysteries surrounding them. Perhaps it was a portal, a conduit to unlock the narratives trapped within the town's silent structures. A sense of purpose ignited within him, a resolution to become the catalyst that might lay the past to rest. Surrounded by the ethereal whispers of Hollow Ridge, John and Shadow embraced the enigmatic night, their unyielding bond a beacon in the darkness, guided by their shared quest to unravel the town's spectral mysteries. The night enveloped Hollow Ridge with a suffocating silence, a shroud of stillness that seemed to pulse with memories. John and Shadow lingered at the threshold of the Victorian relic, the cowboy's gaze meeting Shadow's, a silent exchange that held years of trust and understanding. The dog's hackles rose subtly, a ripple of primal warning coursing through his frame as his nose tested the stale air. Here the atmosphere was different, denser, as though the house itself breathed with an ancient, sinister intent. Shadows stretched languidly across the creaking floorboards, each step taken with deliberate caution, their presence a disturbance in the settled dust of forgotten time. The dim glow of the lantern cast quivering halos on faded wallpaper, the once vibrant patterns now a ghostly sepia, peeling in surrender to the passage of lost decades. With each cautious advance into the depths of the house, Shadow's unease grew palpable, manifesting in low, instinctual whines that resonated with John's own rising apprehension. The parlor's air was thick, an invisible weight pressing down, whispering the echoes of laughter and sorrow long since dissipated into the ether. Shadow's ears were pricked, attentive to the imperceptible, a language of the unseen. The cowboy noted the shift in his companion's demeanor, a silent dialogue of deference to the canine's superior instincts. Past the parlor lay a corridor that beckoned with an unsettling allure, each doorway a portal to an unknown chapter in the house's story. Shadow hesitated at the corridor's mouth, his instinct a tangible force against John's determined curiosity, the tension between them as tight as a drawn bowstring. The house, it seemed, thrummed with a subtle energy, a pulse that John could almost hear beneath the floorboards, a rhythm of long-buried secrets. The brass key, heavy in John's pocket, was a constant reminder of the mysteries they had yet to unravel, its metal cool and unyielding against his thigh. Shadow's gaze fixated on the key, as if sensing its significance, his instincts honed to detect what lay beyond human perception. The cowboy's fingers brushed against the key's cool surface, feeling the heft of responsibility it represented, a responsibility to the ghosts of this house, to the stories yearning to be heard. As they moved deeper, the structure groaned under the weight of its own history, each creak and moan a language of despair and longing. The further they ventured, the more the past seemed to unfurl around them, weaving its spectral tendrils into the fabric of the present. Shadow, ever vigilant, paused at a door that remained stubbornly closed against the encroachments of time, his body rigid with a tension that resonated through his leash and into John's core. The cowboy's heart matched the house's heartbeat, each thud a reminder that they were intruders in this realm of memories. With a gentle nudge, the door surrendered its secret, a room preserved in an eerie tableau, the furniture arranged as if awaiting its former occupants. Shadow's soft growl cut through the silence, a declaration of his disquiet, his instincts sharpening the focus on the unseen eyes watching from the corners. Yet amid the tension and foreboding, an unspoken dialogue unfolded between man and dog, an understanding woven from years of shared solitude and adventures across the open plains. John knelt, finding solace in the familiar softness of Shadow's fur, the solid presence that anchored him in the face of the unknown. Together, they navigated the murky waters of history, the unspoken promise of protection binding them as they braved the shadows of Hollow Ridge. With the brass key as their guide, they moved forward, their bond a beacon against the encroaching darkness. Each room revealed new layers of mystery, stories waiting to be told, as the house whispered its secrets to the cowboy and his loyal companion. A heavy stillness blanketed the room, as if the air itself were holding its breath. Shadows skittered across the walls, animated by the flickering light of a single candle John had found amidst the detritus of bygone days. The flame danced erratically, casting long, wavering shadows that seemed to reach out towards him and Shadow, who sat vigilant at his side. The silence was not empty. It was filled with the echo of memories, a tapestry of whispers and forgotten laughter weaving through the fabric of the night. John felt the weight of unseen eyes tracing his every move, a sensation as tangible as the chill seeping through the old wood underfoot. The room where they had settled for the night was a parlor once vibrant with life, now a mausoleum of memories. The wallpaper, faded and peeling, bore the marks of time, each tear a testament to the years it had witnessed. An old piano occupied the corner, its keys yellowed with age, silent yet resonant with the ghost of melodies long unsung. The moon, casting its pale light through a cracked window, painted the room in hues of silver and shadow. As John studied the space, the profound stillness was broken only by the rhythmic breathing of Shadow, a steady anchor in the encroaching night. As the hour stretched towards midnight, the air seemed to thicken, charged with an energy both foreign and familiar. Shadow's ears perked, his body tensing as an imperceptible tremor rippled through the room. John stiffened, feeling the hairs on his neck stand erect, a primal instinct warning of an approaching presence. In the quiet, the sound came, a soft, mournful wailing, distant yet intimate, as if the house itself were lamenting its lost inhabitants. It grew louder, filling the air with an aching sadness that clawed at John's heart, drawing him deeper into the mystery of Hollow Ridge. Shadow rose, his gaze fixed upon the closed door leading to the hallway. Without a word, John followed, trusting in the dog's instincts. Together, they crossed the threshold, entering a corridor shrouded in darkness, the candle flickering its last. The hallway stretched endlessly, lined with doors leading to unknown realms, each one a silent guardian of secrets untold. As they moved forward, the wailing transformed into whispers, an intricate symphony of voices overlapping in a chorus of longing and despair. The walls seemed to pulse with the cadence of this spectral song, each beat resonating with the pulse of the house. John paused, his hand brushing against an ornate doorknob, its cold metal a stark contrast to the warmth of his skin. Shadow whined softly, his eyes meeting John's with an understanding born of years spent side by side. There was a choice here, a path that beckoned them forward into the heart of the house's mystery. John took a deep breath, feeling the cool weight of the brass key in his pocket like a promise, a connection to the past waiting to be unlocked. Together, they turned the knob, sealing their pact with the phantoms of Hollow Ridge, stepping into the unknown with a courage forged by trust and necessity. The evening wore on, casting Hollow Ridge in a deeper shade of mystery as the shadows lengthened and night pulled its opaque curtain over the ghost town. John and Shadow, undeterred, pressed forward through the labyrinthine corridors of the Victorian house, the brass key clutched tightly in John's roughened hand. Each creak of the floorboards beneath their feet felt like an ancient sigh emanating from the house itself, as if acknowledging the presence of the intruders who dared to disturb its slumber. The air was thick with dust and history, clinging to them like a shroud, and every doorway they passed seemed to beckon them with unspoken stories waiting to be heard. Shadows danced in the corners, vague shapes that suggested forgotten figures from an era long past, their presence felt but not seen. In a dimly lit corner room, the key found its purpose, fitting perfectly into the lock of an ornate, weathered chest. The atmosphere shifted palpably as the lid creaked open, revealing a trove of artifacts from the past. Yellowed letters, photographs tinged with sepia, and an assortment of trinkets that glimmered faintly under the flickering light of John's lantern. Shadow stood sentinel by the door, ears perked, as if sensing the weight of the revelations about to unfold. John reached for the letters first, each page a tapestry of emotions penned in a careful looping script. Here were tales of love and betrayal, of hopes raised and dashed, woven into the very fabric of the house's being. The photographs, faces frozen in time, whispered of joy and sorrow, their eyes holding secrets that transcended the years. As John delved deeper into the contents, a story began to emerge, one of a family torn apart by circumstance and misfortune, their lives intertwined with the dwelling that now harbored only echoes of their existence. The patriarch, a man of stern countenance and unyielding resolve, clashed with his rebellious son, their disagreement a catalyst for the tragedy that followed. Shadow's low growl brought John back to the present, eyes scanning the room for the unseen force that seemed to draw near. The temperature dipped noticeably, a chill that seeped into his bones, as if the house itself were reacting to the unearthing of long-buried truths. John's heart pounded in his chest, a rhythm that matched the tension building around them, the walls seeming to close in with a silent, relentless pressure. The room itself seemed to come alive, objects vibrating with an energy that was both unsettling and compelling. Shadows lengthened and twisted, morphing into grotesque forms that hovered at the edge of vision. John and Shadow, bound by an unspoken understanding, braced against the storm of emotions unleashed by their discoveries. The very air thrummed with the resonance of the past, a symphony of despair and longing that played in the background of their thoughts. John could almost hear the echoes of arguments, the whispers of conspiracies, the wails of grief that had once filled these walls. It was as if the house had been waiting for someone to uncover its story, to give voice to the silent specters that lingered within. With the revelations came a clarity, a realization that the house and its tragic past were inextricably linked to the town's fate. The story was one of many, scattered across Hollow Ridge like leaves on the wind, each tale a piece of the puzzle that formed the ghostly tapestry of the town. The connection between John and Shadow grew stronger, their collective will forging a path through the oppressive darkness. They were guardians and seekers, charged with the task of bringing light to the shadows, of stitching together the fragments of memory that clung to the town's bones. As they stood amidst the detritus of lives once lived, the call to unravel Hollow Ridge's enigma echoed in the silence, a challenge that promised no easy answers but demanded their resolve nonetheless. The house exhaled a long, creaking sigh as John turned the brass key in the lock of the old chest. Shadow, steadfast by his side, pricked his ears, sensing the shift in the air, a subtle, almost imperceptible undercurrent charged with electricity. The chest opened with a reluctant groan, revealing layers of yellowed papers, brittle with age and the scent of forgotten memories. John carefully lifted the topmost document, its ink faded but legible, detailing a deed to the property, signed in an elegant yet stern hand. The name read William Hawthorne. As John uttered the name aloud, the room seemed to listen, the house shifting slightly as if it recognized an old, unforgotten truth. Shadow nudged the papers, urging discovery, his eyes reflecting an uncanny understanding. Among the documents, John found a weathered diary, its cover cracked but resilient through time's relentless passage. Opening its pages, he was met with the voice of a woman, her words poignant with sorrow and longing. Her entries sketched a portrait of life within these walls, a life shadowed by conflict and unyielding expectations. Her longing for freedom and the oppressive weight of family discord painted a vivid tapestry of emotion and turmoil. Each entry was an echo, resonating through the spaces of this decaying mansion. John could almost hear her breath, her whispers carried by the wind that swept through the broken window panes and settled in the corners of the room. Shadow's gaze was steady, as if he too understood the depth of the narrative unfurling before them. As John absorbed the diary's truths, Shadow's attention was drawn to a portrait hanging by the fireplace. The painting depicted a family, a stern-faced man with a penetrating gaze, a woman beside him, her eyes haunted, and a young man standing defiantly apart. The painting's eyes watched, following John's movements across the room, a silent guardian of forgotten tales. Beneath the painting, an inscription read, "The Hawthorne Family, 1897. John felt the cold brush of history's breath against his neck, a shiver that whispered of unresolved stories and untold secrets. The walls seemed to close in, growing colder, as if the past itself rose to touch the present, intertwining their fates in a dance of echoes and shadows. Shadow barked softly, drawing John's focus to a floorboard that lay askew. With a gentle but firm nudge, the board lifted, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, a collection of letters bound in faded ribbon lay, their envelopes brittle yet intact. These letters spoke a different narrative, a voice of youthful rebellion, full of dreams and aspirations stifled by duty. The son's words were sharp with yearning, colored by the frustration of a spirit confined. His letters painted a stark contrast to the resignation in the diary, revealing a dynamic of conflict and passion that clashed through the corridors of this house. John could feel the tension woven into every fiber of the wood, the air thick with the echoes of arguments and the silence of unspoken hopes. The house seemed to breathe with them, its memories alive in the shadows cast by the setting sun. John placed the letters back, feeling the weight of their history settle within him. Each artifact a piece of the puzzle, a step closer to understanding the tragedies that had unfolded here. Shadow pressed close, his warmth a comfort against the chill of the past. Together they moved through the house, each creak of the floorboard and whisper of the wind a testament to lives once vibrant, now reduced to echoes. As twilight deepened, John knew their journey was only beginning, their path entwined with the town's spectral history. In the gathering darkness, the Victorian house stood silent, a custodian of stories waiting to be unraveled as cowboy and dog prepared for the mysteries yet to come. The dim light of the oil lamps flickered against the peeling wallpaper, casting long, wavering shadows that seemed to dance to the rhythm of a forgotten tune. John held the weighty Victorian diary, each page infused with the scent of dust and old ink, the texture rough and aged under his calloused fingers. Shadow sat alert at his feet, eyes fixed on the doorway, as if sensing an unseen audience. The cowboy's heart beat a steady tattoo that matched the tremor of the house, as a chilling breeze meandered through the corridors, carrying with it the faint echo of a piano's melancholy cadence from years long past. John could almost see the young Hawthorne boy seated at the piano, fingers brushing the keys in rebellion against his father's demands, a ghostly symphony of defiance and despair. The diary entries unfolded like whispers from the grave, recounting the intricate web of the Hawthorne family's life. Each passage painted vivid portraits of a world where ambition and desperation wove an inseparable tapestry. The father, a man of stern principles and unyielding ambition, seemed to loom large even in absence, his presence a spectre that haunted the living spaces with silent judgment. In contrast, the mother's longing for escape seeped through her words. A woman trapped within gilded cages, her dreams of freedom dashed against the harsh rocks of reality. Her voice, albeit silent, lingered in the air like an unfinished song, echoing the desperation that had once filled these rooms. Shadow shifted uneasily, the eeriness creeping beneath his fur, as if he too could sense the profound sorrow embedded in the very architecture. John paused, allowing the weight of their stories to settle over him like a shroud. He tried to imagine the way the house had once thrummed with life, laughter interspersed with tears, the walls a mute witness to the Hawthorne family's unraveling. He wondered if the father had ever softened, if the mother had found solace within these walls, if the son had rebelled against his fate or succumbed to it. These were questions with no answers, lingering like the shadows in the corners of the room. Yet amidst the swirling uncertainty, a curious resolve took hold of John. He felt a strange kinship with the family, a shared solitude, a struggle against unseen chains. Shadow stood, attentive, as if understanding the shift in his master's demeanor, prepared to ward off the unseen forces that seemed to encircle them. As John continued to turn the pages, a map fell from between the yellowed sheets, fluttering softly to the floor like an autumn leaf. Shadow, with a gentle nudge, pushed it towards John, his eyes reflecting the flickering candlelight with a glint of urgency. It was a map of the town, detailed and worn, marked with cryptic symbols and annotations that hinted at places of significance. The cowboy's gaze lingered on a particular symbol, a house similar to the one they found themselves in, yet different, imbued with a sense of foreboding mystery. The map sang of secrets that lay buried beneath layers of time and neglect, waiting for someone brave enough to unearth them. A new layer to the mystery beckoned, an unseen thread in the fabric of Hollow Ridge's history, a secret guarded by time itself. John felt the chill of anticipation, the silent promise of revelations yet to come, urging him to continue down the path he had unwittingly chosen. Shadow, ever faithful, remained at his side, a vigilant guardian against the encroaching darkness. Together, they stood on the precipice of discovery, the spectral town wrapping around them like a cocoon spun from shadows and whispers. The house creaked in acquiescence, its wooden bones settling into the night, as if ready to reveal its deepest secrets. The air, thick with unspoken stories, and the lingering spirits of those who once inhabited the space, pulsed with a resonance that called to them, urging them to venture deeper into the enigma of Hollow Ridge. As they prepared to delve further into the unknown, the map and diary their guides, the ghostly embrace of the past, welcomed them into its haunting embrace. In the pre-dawn shadows of Hollow Ridge, an eerie silence enveloped the town, thick as the fog that clung to the ground. The Victorian house, now their temporary home, seemed to breathe with a life of its own. The air was heavy with the scent of decaying wood and forgotten memories. John sat on the creaky porch, sipping coffee, his eyes tracing the horizon where the sky bled into an indistinguishable gray. Beside him, Shadow lay alert, his ears pricked as if attuned to the whispers carried by the wind. The German shepherd's gaze was fixed on a spot at the edge of the property, where the forest began its silent vigil, a dark sea of twisted trees bristling under the first light of dawn. Shadow stood abruptly, a low rumble vibrating through his chest, a warning, a signal only John could understand. Together they descended the steps, boots crunching over the gravel path, driven by an unspoken urgency. The forest closed around them, branches arching overhead like skeletal fingers, reaching towards the sky. As they moved deeper, Shadow's pace quickened, his instincts guiding them as naturally as a compass. John's heart pounded in rhythm with their steps, anticipation and trepidation mingling into a potent brew of emotion. The path twisted and turned, a serpentine journey through the mist-laden woods, where every rustle and crackle seemed to hold the promise of revelation or danger. Here the world was stripped down to basic elements, earth, air and shadow, a secretive realm, where the past seemed to bleed into the present with uncanny ease. Eventually, they emerged into a clearing, a place where the light filtered through the canopy, fragmented and fragile. At the center, a solitary grave sat unmarked, the earth disturbed, its story left untold. Shadow circled the site with a solemn air, every movement purposeful, as if understanding the solemnity of this forgotten resting place. John approached with reverence, kneeling by the grave's edge, his fingers brushing over the damp soil. A chill ran through him, goosebumps rising like a physical manifestation of the invisible threads that wove through this place. The earth felt different here, charged with an energy that seemed to pulse beneath his touch. Shadow settled beside him, eyes fixed on the horizon, a silent guardian vigilantly watching over this sacred space, as if sensing the gravity of what lay beneath. The discovery of the grave shifted something within John, a subtle realignment of his perception. He imagined the lives once connected to this earth, the laughter and tears, dreams and regrets, all now woven into the fabric of the soil. The diary entries back at the house echoed faintly in his mind, snippets of the Hawthorne family's struggles and ambitions. Yet, this grave, unmarked and silent, spoke volumes in its anonymity. It was a testament to the forgotten, a symbol of the stories untold and the lives lived in the shadow of obscurity. The thought was both humbling and haunting, a poignant reminder of the transience of life against the eternal backdrop of nature's quiet endurance. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath, a moment suspended in time, where the past and present converged in a dance of shadows and echoes. As they turned to leave, John felt a profound sense of connection, a thread tying him to this place and its hidden history. Shadow moved beside him, ever vigilant, his presence a comforting constant amid the mysteries that surrounded them. Together, they retraced their steps through the forest, the path now familiar, but no less ominous. Each footfall seemed heavier, imbued with the knowledge of what lay behind them and the promise of what still awaited. The Victorian house loomed in the distance, a sentinel of secrets standing against the backdrop of Hollow Ridge. As they approached, the wind picked up, carrying with it the faintest echo of a melody, a forgotten lullaby lost to time, or perhaps a siren's call, urging them deeper into the town's elusive narrative. Their journey of discovery and revelation was far from over, the unmarked grave only a whisper in a chorus of secrets begging to be unearthed. The night embraced Hollow Ridge with an unsettling calmness, the kind that settled deep into the bones and refused to be shaken. The town, silhouetted against the moonlit sky, seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. John could feel the weight of centuries in the air, as if the very atmosphere was thick with the whispers of those who once walked its now deserted streets. Shadow, ever vigilant, prowled alongside him, his keen senses attuned to the imperceptible shifts in the surroundings. The air was charged with an energy that spoke of stories yearning to be told, of secrets holding a vice-like grip on their revelations. Inside the Victorian house, shadows danced across the ornate wallpaper, their movements reminiscent of a time when laughter and music filled these halls. The silence was not merely the absence of sound, but a tangible presence, an ominous entity that filled every corner. As John moved through the dimly lit rooms, Shadow's ears perked at each creak and groan of the ancient structure. The cowboy's mind drifted to the Hawthorne family, their triumphs and tragedies meticulously chronicled in the diary he had found. A particular passage lingered in his mind, detailing a heated argument between father and son, the echoes of which seemed to linger in the ether. John's hand absently toyed with the brass key, hung around his neck, its cool touch a reminder of the mysteries yet to be unveiled. Shadow, in his silent wisdom, led him to the library, a room frozen in time, where tomes of forgotten knowledge lay covered in dust. As they stepped inside, the air was heavy with the scent of aged paper and neglected leather. Shadows clawed at the walls, cast by the flickering candlelight, and John felt a shiver race down his spine. It was here, amid the crumbling manuscripts and faded photographs, that he felt the true weight of the town's history, an ever-present spectre demanding acknowledgement. The discovery of the unmarked grave loomed heavily in John's thoughts, a potent symbol of lives lived in silence and perhaps concluded in tragedy. Memories, not his own, seemed to surface with each step he took, leaving him with an uncanny sense of belonging to this place, as if his own story was inexplicably entangled with that of Hollow Ridge. The forest clearing, bathed in an ethereal glow beneath the canopy of towering trees, had whispered secrets to him, tales of love and loss, of promises broken and dreams shattered. Shadow, sensing his companion's turmoil, pressed close, offering a wordless comfort that transcended the boundaries of speech. The Victorian house loomed ahead, a solemn witness to the unfolding narrative. Its facade, though weathered and worn, held an aura of majesty, refusing to relinquish its hold on the past. As John and Shadow approached, the house seemed to breathe, exhaling decades of pent-up emotion. The wind picked up, a mournful wail echoing through the empty streets, as if the town itself mourned for what once was and could never be reclaimed. In that moment, John understood the magnitude of their journey. This was more than a quest for answers. It was an odyssey through the very soul of Hollow Ridge, and perhaps a journey into his own depths. Shadow, his steadfast guardian, stood by his side, ready to face whatever truths lay hidden in the shadows. The night deepened, wrapping Hollow Ridge in a velvet cloak of darkness as John and Shadow approached the heart of the enigma, a dilapidated manor that whispered of yesteryears. Its windows, like hollow eyes, gazed vacantly into the void. Each creak underfoot was a testament to the house's age, its wood groaning like ancient bones stirring from a long slumber. Shadow moved beside John, his presence a comforting weight against the cold uncertainty that seeped from the walls. The air was electric with anticipation, charged by the century-old secrets that awaited their uncovering. Every corner of the estate seemed to pulse with a life of its own, teasing a truth that lay just beyond reach. Inside, the atmosphere was a tapestry of ghostly whispers and the metallic scent of time. John felt the diary's presence in his pocket, a tangible connection to the past that seemed to nudge him forward, urging him deeper into the labyrinthine corridors of the manor. The pages had spoken of clandestine meetings and unspoken pacts, tales that suggested the landlord's intentions were far from benevolent. It was as if the house itself was aiding their discovery, each room a vignette of forgotten lives, each shadow a guardian of the tales left untold. Shadow's ears twitched, detecting echoes that evaded human hearing. His growl was a low, persistent rumble, acknowledging the unseen presence hovering just out of sight. John's mind wandered to the map, the cryptic annotations suggesting hidden passageways and clandestine gatherings. He contemplated the landlord's veiled machinations, a chess game played with human lives as pawns. The manor was a pawn shop of memories, where each forgotten tale was pledged as collateral against the future. A glance at Shadow confirmed their shared understanding of the task ahead. They moved cautiously, their footsteps a soft percussion in the otherwise still night, guided by an unspoken pact with the specters who lingered here. The chilling realization permeated the air. The landlord's sinister designs were etched into the very foundation of this place. As they ventured into the heart of the house, a gust of wind ushered them into a parlor, its faded grandeur still hinting at former opulence. Ancient portraits adorned the walls, eyes following their every move with an unnerving awareness. John's gaze drifted to a painting of a stern figure. Could this be the landlord? The art's chilling aura suggested a man of considerable power and a shadowy past. An undeniable heaviness settled in the air, the kind that comes with the weight of untold stories. Shadow sniffed the floor, his attention drawn to a corner where the scent of dust mingled with something metallic, offering a clue to unravel this intricate web. In that moment, the house exhaled, releasing a breath pregnant with the echoes of its past. A barely discernible murmur swept through the room, as if the walls themselves had begun to speak. John felt a shiver crawl up his spine, a sensation not of fear, but of a profound connection to the unfolding drama. He pondered the landlord's ominous role in shaping the desolate fate of Hollow Ridge. Each step was a negotiation with the past, a dance with shadows that promised both revelation and peril. The interplay of light and dark created a chiaroscuro tapestry where truth and illusion intertwined. The bond between John and Shadow remained unyielding, a testament to their shared resolve to confront the echoes of history. The evening air, thick with the weight of secrets, grew denser as John and Shadow crossed the threshold into the mansion's parlor. The once opulent room, now shrouded in neglect, held its breath in the dim light. Heavy drapes hung like sentinels over cobwebbed windows, casting odd shadows that danced across the faded floral wallpaper. A grand piano, its presence dominating the western corner, stood silent, yet expectant. Dust motes drifted aimlessly in the stagnant air, stirred by their intrusion. The piano's lid was ajar, as if it too awaited the gentle coax of fingers to bring forth its forgotten melodies. John ran his calloused fingers along its surface, feeling the resonance of long, silenced notes echo through his bones, a tapestry of sound woven by the ghosts of the past. Shadow, ever vigilant, circled the piano, his keen eyes scanning the room's periphery. The dog's ears perked at a sound only he could discern, a frequency from the temporal divide. John watched Shadow's movements, trusting his companion's instincts implicitly. The bond between man and beast transcended words, each understanding the unspoken cues of the other. Together, they had traversed many a haunted path, their souls interwoven in steadfast loyalty. As Shadow settled by the piano, John felt a chill snake its way up his spine, coiling tightly around his awareness. A soft breeze whispered through the room, unnatural in its origin, carrying with it a melancholic tune, barely perceptible, elusive as a half-remembered dream. It was as if the mansion itself sang songs of sorrow and loss. The diary's entries lingered in John's mind, their poignancy mirrored in the haunting strains, now unfurling in the air. The Hawthorne family's legacy was woven into each note, their struggles and desires lingering, suspended in time. As he thumbed through the sepia-toned pages, a particular passage called to him with unsettling urgency. The son's voice, raw and defiant, cried out against the oppressive tyranny of expectation, the weight of which had fractured the family's fragile unity. The mother's lament for freedom, trapped in gilded cages of societal mores, resonated with a deep, aching familiarity. The piano seemed to echo these sentiments, its sound a bridge between the temporal realms, and John contemplated the universality of their plight, the eternal human conflict between duty and desire, love and liberty. Lost in thought, The room's temperature plummeted abruptly, a sign John had learned to heed. Shadow tensed beside him, muscles coiled like springs, every fiber attuned to the shift. The piano keys, untouched by mortal hands, depressed one by one, each note a delicate footfall in the silence, composing an ethereal dirge. A cold, translucent hand materialized above the keys, its owner half-formed, a figure trapped between worlds. John's heart thundered, not in fear, but in empathy for the tortured soul, visible now in the moonlight's glow. The spectre played not for fright, but for remembrance, a heartfelt plea reverberating in the ether. These ghostly strains were a language of their own, a code yet to be deciphered, urging John to unearth the truth buried beneath Hollow Ridge's solemn facade. As the final notes lingered, suspended in the air like the dying breath of a storm, John felt Shadow's presence grounding him, anchoring his resolve. The mansion's spectral serenade was not merely an echo of past sorrows, but a harbinger of revelations yet to unfold. With a determined breath, John closed the diary, the past stitched into its pages like a quilt. The creak of wood beneath his boots resonated with a sense of destiny, each step a commitment to unveiling the tapestry of lives entwined with his own journey. Together, with Shadow as his compass, John would navigate the maelstrom of mysteries hidden in the shadows of Hollow Ridge, binding the past's whispers to the present's inexorable march. And so, their journey continued, as ephemeral as the melodies that haunted the halls. The shadows stretched like sinewy fingers across the decaying floorboards as John stood still in the suffocating silence of the parlor, the diary clutched tightly in his weathered hands. His mind was a tempest of disjointed thoughts, grappling with the boundary between reality and illusion. Every creak of the house seemed to mock his fragile grasp on the tangible world, whispering secrets just beyond his comprehension. Shadows, always sensitive to the unspoken, pressed against John's leg, offering a silent companionship that anchored him in the midst of the storm. The room around them pulsated with an energy that seemed almost alive, the very air thick with the remnants of passions once fiercely felt and violently extinguished. The ghostly strains of a long-forgotten melody drifted from the untouched piano, each note a spectral lament threading through the fabric of time. John could feel the weight of unseen eyes upon him, a silent audience to his inner turmoil. The diary's pages were soft beneath his fingertips, a tactile connection to the Hawthorne family's unquenchable desires and shattered dreams. As he read, the words blurred with his own reflections, memories of a life filled with solitude, echoing the lonely voices of the past. Each entry was a mirror to his soul, the same battles fought for freedom against the invisible chains of obligation and expectation. He imagined the parlor as it once was, a gathering place of hushed conspiracies and stolen glances, each corner holding stories that defied the ravages of time. It was in these moments that John felt the delicate balance of his own existence teetering on the edge, his reality interwoven with the echoes of those who had walked before him. In the heart of uncertainty, Shadow's instincts guided them deeper into the labyrinth of the manor. They moved as one, their bond unspoken but profound. Shadow's ears perked, eyes alert to unseen presences as they navigated the dim corridors. Every door they passed seemed a portal to another time, another story awaiting its turn to be heard. The map from the diary had come alive in John's mind, each line and symbol etched with a purpose that demanded exploration. Yet, within the depths of the manor, he felt an increasing dissonance, as though each step furthered the divide between what he knew to be true and what the house demanded him to believe. The hidden passageways the map suggested were both a lure and a warning, promising answers, but not without cost. They were both explorers and trespassers in a world where the past refused to be laid to rest. The grave they discovered in the overgrown garden was a testament to lives forcibly halted, secrets taken to an earthly conclusion. It was here that John felt most keenly the burden of his journey, a weight pressing down on his shoulders, urging reflection on his own life's path. The grave's marker was worn, hard to read, yet the name etched upon it resonated with a strange familiarity. A chill coursed through John as he realized the interconnectedness of his fate with that of the town's history. Shadow whined softly, sensing his master's disquiet, their shared solitude a balm against the haunting melody that seemed to rise from the very ground. This solitary piece of Hollow Ridge held more than mere bones. It was a crucible for lost dreams, a reminder of the fragile line between life and death, reality and memory. As night cloaked the manor in shadows deeper than before, John sat on the creaking porch, the map and diary beside him, a turbulent sea of thoughts swirling within. Shadow lay at his feet, the comforting rhythm of his breathing a constant amid the chaos. The spectral serenade continued to weave its way into the depths of John's mind, a call to unravel the mysteries that bound him to this place. Here, in the quiet of the night, John understood that their journey was about more than unveiling the past. It was a confrontation with his own ghosts, a chance to find clarity amid the confusion of reality and illusion. Together with Shadow, he was bound to illuminate the dark corners of Hollow Ridge, to breathe life into its forgotten tales, and perhaps to find peace within his own restless soul. The staircase to the attic creaked underfoot, each step a reluctant whisper of its own secrets. John paused briefly, hand gripping the banister worn smooth by time and untold histories. Shadow followed with deliberate steps, his ears pricked and alert, the soft whine of the wooden boards echoing in the enclosed space. Above, where the darkness taunted their curiosity, the air felt different, heavier, as though laden with the weight of unseen eyes. A chill slithered down John's spine, a reminder that the unknown awaited at the top. As they ascended, John felt a shift within himself, a surreal blending of anticipation and trepidation, a pull toward something he couldn't yet name. The attic greeted them with a breath of cold air, sharp and biting, as if the space itself exhaled a sigh long withheld. Dust motes swirled in the dim light filtering through a grimy window, casting spectral patterns on the floor. John hesitated on the threshold, his gaze sweeping across the cluttered landscape of forgotten objects. Here were remnants of lives half-lived, a child's rocking horse, its paint chipped and faded, a trunk filled with clothes eaten through by time. And there, a full-length mirror, its surface clouded, reflecting not just the room but the shadows of its past. Shadow's low growl resonated quietly, a warning or perhaps an acknowledgement of the unseen presence that seemed to pulse within these walls. John moved slowly, deliberately, his instincts honed from years of solitude in the open plains. The attic's silence was deceptive, a quietude that buzzed with latent energy. He approached the mirror, drawn inexplicably to the vague shapes that materialized and dissolved in its depths. Shadow stood by his side, fur bristling slightly in the charged atmosphere. As John's reflection wavered, another figure emerged, spectral and indistinct, its outline merging with his own. For a heartbeat, time seemed to curve inward, drawing him into a world where past and present collided and boundaries blurred. The figure's eyes, ethereal yet piercing, seemed to speak of an ancient sorrow, a silent plea that lingered in the space between breaths. Breaking the spell, John stepped back, his heart drumming a rhythm of unease. The apparition faded, leaving only the mirror's empty stare. But the encounter had left an imprint, a sense of kinship that he couldn't dismiss. It was as if the ghostly figure had reached beyond the veil, not to frighten, but to commune, to share in the depths of its lingering despair. Shadow nudged John's hand, a tactile reminder of the here and now, grounding him amidst the swirling vortex of history and emotion. The dog's presence was a constant, a tether to the tangible world, even as the supernatural threads of Hollow Ridge continued to entwine them. Yet John felt an undeniable compulsion to linger, to unravel the tapestry of the attic's secrets. Each object here held its own narrative, woven into the larger saga of the Hawthorne family and the town they inhabited. The ghostly figure in the mirror was not a mere spectre of fear. It was a sentinel of stories, of lives etched into the fabric of this place. As he turned to leave the attic for now, John felt a renewed sense of purpose, an understanding that his journey into Hollow Ridge's heart was far from over. Shadow followed, a stalwart companion, their shared path illuminated by the flickering light of discovery and the undeniable echoes of the past that beckoned them onward. The dying light of dusk bathed Hollow Ridge in a pallid hue, casting elongated shadows that danced with a life of their own. As John and Shadow stood at the entrance of the Victorian mansion, the air bristled with an otherworldly tension, as if the very walls were whispering secrets only Shadow could decipher. With a gentle nudge of encouragement, Shadow led them down the grand hallway, his nose tracing an invisible line tethered to the past. Each step seemed to reverberate with echoes of forgotten laughter and hushed arguments, a tapestry of emotions woven into the fabric of the mansion's existence. Shadow's ears pricked, attuned to a frequency beyond human perception, guiding them with an instinct honed by years of companionship and silent understanding. As they ventured deeper into the mansion, the atmosphere shifted, thickening with the weight of unspoken truths. Shadow paused before a once opulent parlor, the air within vibrating with a palpable sorrow. John hesitated, feeling the chill of the unknown pressing against his skin like an unwelcome caress. The room was a tableau of decay and grandeur. Velvet drapes, moth-eaten and laden with dust, a grand piano sitting silently, its keys yellowed and cracked by time. Shadow's gaze was fixed intently on a portrait above the mantel, the eyes of the painted Hawthorne patriarch seemingly following their every move. In those eyes, John saw a flicker of defiance, a story untold. Shadow huffed, drawing John's attention back to a corner where the wallpaper peeled away, revealing a hidden latch. The scent of aged paper and ink emanated from the shadows beyond, beckoning them further into the depths of the mansion's forgotten narratives. The diary they had found earlier lay open on a dusty table, pages splayed like a wounded bird, telling tales of ambition and betrayal. Shadow's nose nudged it gently, turning pages with an almost reverent care, each revealing a new layer of the Hawthorne saga. John read aloud, his voice echoing in the cavernous silence, the words painting vivid images of the lives entwined within these walls. Shadow's presence was a steady anchor in the turbulent sea of emotions these stories evoked, their bond transcending the physical, rooted deeply in a shared understanding that needed no words. The diary spoke of promises broken, of love that had turned bitter, lingering like an unwashable stain upon the souls who sought refuge in its embrace. Somewhere in the cadence of John's voice and the rustling leaves outside, a melody arose, spectral and haunting, a ghostly lullaby that resonated with the mansion's murmurings. Guided by Shadow's unwavering intuition, their exploration extended beyond the mansion's confines, tracing the lines of the map found within the diary. The path took them to the edge of the town, where the remnants of a garden lay, long reclaimed by nature's insidious grasp. In the waning light, the unmarked grave was a solemn reminder of the mortal stories that time often forgets. Shadow stood sentinel, his body tense, as if aware of the energies that ebbed and flowed beneath the earth. John's thoughts wandered to the Hawthornes, to the dreams and despairs buried with them, his own solitude mirrored in the starkness of the landscape. The stillness was broken only by the sigh of the wind, carrying with it the faint strains of a forgotten melody, a soft requiem that tied the past to the present, urging him to see the invisible connections woven through time. Returning to the mansion, their path led to the attic, where the air pulsed with a magnetic pull, urging them onward. The spectral presence sensed earlier grew stronger, a chilling reminder of the mansion's inhabitants whose stories remained unfinished. Shadow moved with a careful grace, his body a shadow among shadows, knowing instinctively that this place harbored the final truths. As John ascended the creaking staircase, each step felt like a descent into the heart of the building's soul. The attic was a sanctuary of memories, dust motes swirling in the beams of moonlight like tiny spirits rejoicing in their freedom. In the far corner sat a chest, its wood darkened with age, a vault of secrets eager to unburden its contents. As Shadow lay beside him, John opened the chest, knowing that within lay the key to disentangling the web of history that bound him to Hollow Ridge. Their journey, a testament to the enduring power of truth and the relentless passage of time. The evening descended upon Hollow Ridge with an unsettling tranquility as John stood transfixed in the attic, the spectral figure's reflection fading from the mirror like a sigh disappearing into silence. Shadow, ever vigilant, pressed close to John's side, his ears perked and eyes alight with an almost preternatural awareness. The air in the attic felt charged, like the electric stillness before a storm, wrapping around them in a freezing embrace. As John's pulse synchronized with the rhythmic ticking of a forgotten mantel clock, his hand brushed against the weathered chest they had unearthed. Inside lay the artifacts of the past, letters sealed with wax, photographs fading into sepia tones, and trinkets that whispered of lives once full and vibrant. Each item seemed to pull at him, threads of history entwining with his own. Shadow's sudden growl broke the heavy silence, a low rumble that vibrated through the wooden floorboards. Intrigued, John followed the dog's gaze to the far corner of the attic, where shadows pooled unnaturally, as if resisting the dim light from the single flickering bulb. There was something behind the old armoire, something that beckoned with a magnetic pull. With a cautious yet determined step, John approached, his boots whispering across the dust-laden floor. Together, they moved the armoire, muscles straining against the weight of years. Behind it lay a door, its wood darkened with age and secrets, the handle cold, as if untouched for decades. It was the revelation of a hidden room, a secret concealed within the heart of the house, waiting for bearer and beast to unveil its mysteries. With a deep breath, John turned the handle, the door creaking open to reveal a space frozen in time. The room was untouched by the decay that gnawed at the rest of the mansion, its air dense with stories and emotions, unfurling like a forgotten opera. A portrait hung solemnly on the far wall, its subject a woman whose eyes seemed to follow John and Shadow with a familiar melancholy. This room was a sanctuary, a cocoon of memories where time had stilled to preserve a narrative unspoken. Shadow moved cautiously, his nose twitching at the sense of age and nostalgia. John felt a chill skitter down his spine, a sensation not of fear, but of profound connection. The room held answers. He sensed it in his bones. Scanning the room, John noticed a writing desk, its surface littered with papers browned by time, yet legible. He lifted a fragile manuscript, deciphering the elegant scrawl of what seemed like the final confession of a heart burdened by secrets. Each word resonated with the weight of truth and sorrow, binding him deeper into the enigma of the Hawthorne lineage. He read of forbidden love, unyielding ambition, and a tragedy that had rippled through time, binding the town's fate to the family's own downfall. Meanwhile, Shadow's restlessness led him to a corner where he nudged aside a loose floorboard with a delicacy that belied his strength. Beneath lay yet another layer to the tale. A small, ornately carved box, its lock shattered, a testament to hurried concealment. As John opened the box, the room seemed to exhale, releasing a breath long held. Inside rested a locket, its gold gleaming faintly amidst the dust, a symbol of love and loss intricately entwined. The image within matched the woman in the portrait, her expression a haunting mix of hope and despair. In that moment, John understood the depth of the Hawthorne's tragedy, the burden of secrets kept and the power of redemption sought. Shadow, sitting beside him with an unwavering gaze, seemed to nod as if understanding the shared journey they had embarked upon. Together they had peeled back the layers of Hollow Ridge's mysteries, revealing not just the truth of a family's past, but the enduring echo of humanity's most profound emotions: love, regret, and the yearning for absolution. The air inside the attic was heavier than any room they had explored in the mansion. Dust particles danced in the narrow beams of moonlight that sliced through the solitary attic window, casting long shadows that twisted and turned as if alive. John felt the weight of history pressing firmly on his shoulders, each step an echo of those who had tread this forgotten space before him. Shadow, alert and perceptive, navigated the cluttered floor with practiced ease, his eyes fixed on an object half hidden beneath a moth-eaten tapestry, a wooden chest, its brass fittings tarnished by time. The air crackled with an unspoken energy as John approached, fingers trembling as he reached for the lid. The creak of the hinges was a mournful sigh, a long-forgotten tune played on the strings of memory itself. Inside the chest lay a trove of intimate keepsakes, each one a testament to lives once vibrant, now reduced to mere echoes. There were letters penned in an exquisite hand, the ink faded, but the emotions raw and palpable. John gingerly unfolded one, the words spilling onto him like a confession meant for a stranger's ears. They told of hopes and dreams, of love found and lost amidst the backdrop of a town that had given so much and taken even more. Shadow pressed against John, his warmth a balm against the chilling realization that these letters might be the remnants of a heart left in shadow, trapped between the world of the living and the dead. The room seemed to pulse with the dying heartbeats of those who had poured their souls into these fragile pages, their whispers barely audible, yet deeply resonating. As John delved deeper into the chest, he unearthed a tattered photograph album, its pages glued together by the passage of time. Gently prying it open, he revealed images of the Hawthorne family, their faces speaking more than any written word could. The smiles captured within were hauntingly familiar, yet distant, each photograph a glimpse into the life that once flourished in Hollow Ridge. Shadow sniffed at the album, sensing the tales locked within the visual remnants. Each page turned was like peeling back layers of the town's soul, exposing wounds that had never fully healed. Underneath the photographs lay a single sheet of music, brittle and yellowed, the notes now unreadable, but their melody lingering in the air like a ghostly refrain. The attic, with its forgotten relics, felt like a mausoleum of emotions both beautiful and tragic. The realization dawned on John that the Hawthorne family's saga was not just a tale of personal sorrow, but a reflection of Hollow Ridge itself, a town caught in the relentless grip of time, its life force ebbing away with each forgotten memory. Shadow barked once, a sharp, clear sound that cut through John's reverie. It was a call to action, a reminder that their journey was far from over. As they prepared to leave the attic, John felt a stirring within him, a promise to honor the lives revealed to him in this spectral relic room. He knew that understanding the past was more than just discovery. It was about compassion, about acknowledging the humanity that transcends time. Descending from the attic, John felt a profound respect for the intertwined destinies that had led him and Shadow to Hollow Ridge. They retraced their steps through the mansion, the air now carrying a different weight, one of determination rather than despair. Each room they passed bore witness to their resolve, the echoes of their footsteps mingling with the whispers of the past. Shadow, ever vigilant, trotted beside John, his presence a steadfast anchor in the swirling sea of uncertainty. As they exited the mansion, the moonlight bathed the town in a silvery glow, bestowing upon it a fragile beauty. John paused, casting a final glance at the Victorian edifice that had revealed so much. The path ahead was uncertain, but armed with the memories uncovered, he and Shadow were committed to unraveling the remaining secrets of Hollow Ridge. Driven by the echoes of lives that had shaped this haunted land, the air hung heavy within the confines of the mansion, the walls whispering secrets long buried beneath layers of dust and decay. Shadow's ears perked, his eyes fixated on a narrow staircase leading to what seemed like the bowels of the house. John hesitated, feeling an inexplicable draw, a pull that suggested the whispers of the past found resonance in his own haunted heart. The stairwell creaked beneath their boots as they descended into the shadows, the dim light above disappearing with each cautious step. The basement, cloaked in oppressive darkness, revealed itself as a repository of forgotten relics. Cobwebbed furniture, faded documents, and weathered photographs scattered like autumn leaves on the cold stone floor. As Shadow's nose traced the scent of history, John's fingers brushed against a ledger, the cover embossed with the Hawthorne name, its pages whispering of accounts settled and unsettled, of prosperity bought with the currency of silence. Each entry was a ghostly fingerprint on the passage of time, the ink fading yet indelible. Then, hidden within its pages, he found a letter, penned with a hand that trembled through the very paper. It spoke of clandestine dealings, of fortunes exchanged under the veil of darkness, and of a landlord's pact with unknown forces. The words spoke to him, reaching into the chasm of his own life's regrets and unresolved choices, teasing the edges of his solitude with echoes of shared misery. The revelation clung to him, resonating with a disquieting familiarity, casting a shadow broader than the room itself. Shadow nudged John forward, his presence a grounding force among the ethereal tendrils of uncertainty. They moved further into the depths of the basement, where the air thickened with an almost tangible dread, pressing upon them like an unseen hand. In the silence, the ticking of a forgotten clock resonated with an eerie rhythm, a dirge for a town lost to time and vanity. There, in the suffocating gloom, an ornate mirror stood against the far wall, its frame intricately carved with symbols that spoke in a language beyond the grasp of mortal understanding. The surface was clouded, yet within its depths, John saw flickers of movement, hints of a world layered atop their own, where the whispers of the house found form. He felt the chill seep into his bones, lingering like an unspoken truth. Yet beneath that icy grip, a warmth emanated from Shadow's steadfast companionship, a light that guided him through the labyrinth of his fears. The mirror's surface rippled, revealing faces that seemed to gaze back at him, a parade of the past, each visage marked by the scars of time, their eyes reflecting tales of ambition and betrayal. John's heart thudded heavily, each beat a reminder of life in the presence of death. He saw in those eyes a mirror of his own soul, the weight of choices made and paths not taken. Shadow barked, a sharp echo that shattered the illusion, grounding John once more in the reality of their quest, a search for understanding, for connection amidst the incoherent whispers of the past. Together, they turned from the spectral tableau, the bond between man and beast, an unspoken pact in the face of the unknown. The descent into the depths of Hollow Ridge's history had awakened something within John, a yearning for resolution, for redemption. Yet the mansion held its secrets close, its heart a labyrinth of intrigue and sorrow. With each step back toward the light, guided by Shadow's unwavering loyalty, John sensed the shadows of the past receding, but never fully gone. The mystery of Hollow Ridge lingered in the air, the landlord's sinister connection woven into the very fabric of the town, an enigma waiting to be unraveled, whispering of promises made and debts yet to be paid. The moon ascended with a silvery glow, casting an ethereal pallor over the dilapidated town, its light slicing through the skeletal trees surrounding Hollow Ridge. The Victorian mansion loomed larger, an ancient guardian standing watch over the cemetery of history concealed beneath its floors. John felt the weight of the past pressing against his skin, whispering through the thin fabric of time, urging him onward. Shadow moved silently beside him, her ears keenly attuned to the faintest rustle, each step purposeful yet gentle, as if aware of the fragile fabric of the world around them. The air was dense with anticipation, every breath a reminder of the mysteries woven into the town's intricate tapestry. Inside the mansion, shadows danced along the walls, animated by the flickering of a forgotten chandelier swaying gently above. A draught, carrying the scent of dust and decay, brushed past them like a ghostly sigh. The diary in John's hands seemed to pulse with life, the pages alive with stories yearning to be told. As he read, the scribbled words of the Hawthorne matriarch revealed a tale of desperation, a bargain struck under a waxing moon, a promise that bound the town's fate to an unholy alliance. There was a prophecy, veiled in cryptic language, that spoke of a day when the land itself would rise to reclaim its own. Shadow nudged John lightly, a reminder of their shared purpose amid the labyrinthine corridors of memory. John's hand traced a path along the wallpaper, fingers catching on the brittle patterns, a tactile connection to a time long past. The presence of those who once roamed these halls lingered palpably in the air, their stories etched into the architecture. Shadow halted at a door marked with an intricate sigil, the symbol resonating with the markings on the map. With a subtle nod, John pushed the door open, and the room beyond was bathed in an unsettling luminescence. It was a library, shelves groaning under the weight of untold knowledge. An open book lay on a mahogany table, its pages yellowed with age, the ink faded but legible. There, an account of the town's founders, their hopes, and the malevolent force that twisted their dreams into nightmares. The room hummed with energy as John and Shadow explored its depths, uncovering a tapestry of events that had shaped Hollow Ridge. On a dusty shelf, they found a portrait of a young woman, her eyes capturing a moment of joy, frozen in time. Beneath it, a letter sealed with wax, its contents a confession of love and regret, a testament to the human heart's capacity for both light and darkness. Shadow's whine echoed softly, a sound of empathy for those who had come before. Together, they pieced together the narrative, a community built on promises, derailed by ambition and greed, and ultimately swallowed by its own misdeeds. Each revelation was a step closer, yet farther from the simplicity of truth, as the layers of deceit and sorrow unfolded like the peeling paint of the mansion. As they turned to leave the library, the sound of a clock chimed distantly, a reminder of passing time and the inevitable reckoning it heralded. The mansion, a monument to human frailty and spectral endurance, seemed to watch them with eyes that had seen too much. Outside, the wind howled, a mournful lament through the narrow streets of Hollow Ridge. John and Shadow, bound by trust and shared silence, stepped into the night, the locket heavy in John's pocket, an anchor to a past that refused to be forgotten. Their journey was far from over, the echoes of the curse still whispering through the corridors of history, daring them to unravel what lay buried beneath the surface of mere words and shadows. The dying embers of daylight surrendered to night as John stood before the grand Victorian house, its silhouette looming like a spectre against a moonless sky. Shadows spilled from every corner, creeping along the walls, whispering in a language only Shadow seemed to understand. The air was heavy, a suffocating cloak wrapping itself around him, filled with the stale scent of dust and the faintest trace of something darker, forgotten. Shadow's ears twitched, his body tense, his instincts sharpening to a razor's edge. It was as if the house itself held its breath, waiting to unveil its secrets to the wary traveler who dared cross its threshold. With a deep breath, John pushed the ornate door open, the creak echoing through the empty halls, resurrecting memories long buried beneath the weight of time. Inside, the house was a silent orchestra of time-worn wood and peeling wallpaper, each room a movement in a symphony of echoes. John's footsteps were muted, swallowed by the thick carpet that lined the hallway, a faded tapestry of intricate patterns, each thread pulling him deeper into the past. He felt the eyes of the Hawthorne family upon him, invisible yet palpable, their presence rooted in the very fabric of this place. Shadow moved beside him, nose to the floor, as if tracing the invisible lines that connected moments lost to history. The diary John had found earlier weighed heavily in his pocket, its words a haunting melody that lingered in his mind, speaking of ambitions thwarted and desires unfulfilled. Every creak of the floorboards beneath his boots seemed to sync with the heartbeat of the house, a pulse that resonated with his own. The attic stairs were steep and narrow, a staircase that seemed to climb into the very heart of uncertainty. The air grew colder as they ascended, a chill that seeped into John's bones, whispering of secrets entombed within the ancient wood. The attic door groaned open, revealing a realm untouched by time. Dust motes danced in the beam of his flashlight, the only light in this chamber of forgotten lives. Here, amidst the relics of yesteryears, the ghosts of the Hawthorne family lingered, their stories etched into the artifacts that crowded the space. Shadow padded cautiously ahead, his form silhouetted against the gloom, each step a conversation with the unseen. John's gaze fell upon a wooden chest, its surface scarred by age, promising revelations that the present could barely grasp. Kneeling before the chest, John lifted its lid, the rusty hinges protesting this intrusion. Inside lay a jumble of keepsakes, a locket, tarnished but still elegant, resting atop letters tied with a faded ribbon. These were the memories of love and longing, captured in ink long dried. As he unfolded one of the letters, the words breathed life into the silence, revealing a clandestine romance marred by betrayal. The past unfolded before John's eyes, a tapestry of emotion and consequence, where every choice was a thread woven into the town's tragic fate. Shadow nudged his hand, sensing the storm within him, grounding John amidst the tempest of history's echoes. Together, they pieced together the lives once lived, their own journey a mirror reflecting the timeless dance of hope and despair. The hour grew late, shadows deepening into the kind of darkness that blurs reality with the unimagined. John found himself at the heart of a mystery woven tighter than any he had ever encountered, the lines between now and then dissolving into the ether. As he stood amidst the relics of a past that refused to be silent, the walls whispered of promises broken and dreams deferred, their voices mingling with the wind that howled outside. Shadow pressed close, his warmth a bastion against the encroaching chill. In this haunted house, where time flowed in unpredictable currents and the air crackled with the charge of untold stories, John understood the depth of the town's sorrow, a sorrow that mirrored his own. Together, man and dog faced the specters of Hollow Ridge, united in their quest for truth and redemption, seeking a resolution for both the living and the dead. The chill of the basement was a physical entity, creeping into John's bones as he and Shadow descended the creaking staircase. Each step echoed through the hollow chamber, reverberating off ancient stone walls, which seemed to breathe with their own solemn cadence. Shadows flickered in the dim glow of a forgotten lantern, casting elongated shapes that danced like specters across the uneven floor. Shadow moved ahead, his ears pricked and body tense, every muscle a taut wire ready to snap. The air was dense with the past, whispers of lost time swirling around them, urging them deeper into the heart of the mansion's hidden underbelly. John's grip on the lantern tightened, the only barrier between them and the consuming darkness. Adjacent to the staircase lay a rusted iron door, its surface marred by the passage of time. Shadow paused before it, nose twitching in the cool air, as if reading a message engraved in a language only he understood. John followed, his mind spinning tales of what lay beyond, the remnants of forgotten souls, memories etched into the very foundation of the place. His hand brushed against the cold metal, fingers tracing the intricate patterns eaten away by rust, as if seeking to unlock the secrets cocooned within. With a deep breath, he pushed the door open, its groan a lament for the years of neglect and silence it had endured. Beyond the threshold lay a room untouched by light for decades, its atmosphere saturated with the smell of damp and decay. Dust motes swirled in the lantern's beam, illuminating a tableau of forgotten relics and spectral apparitions caught between realms. Shadow stepped cautiously onto the worn stone, his eyes scanning the chamber with a vigilance born of instinct. The walls were lined with shelves holding brittle tomes and faded photographs, each a testament to lives once vibrant but now reduced to echoes. John felt the shadows pressing close, like a shroud wrapping around him, urging him to unravel the tapestry of history woven into the fabric of this forsaken room. As John moved further in, the room seemed to close around them, the air thickening with the weight of dormant memories. Shadow paused near an old table, nudging a stack of letters that sat untouched for years, their edges curled and yellowed. John knelt beside him, the letters crumbling slightly under his rough hands as he picked one up, tracing the ink smudges with a reverence reserved for sacred texts. The words, though faded, spoke of love and longing, of promises broken and lives entwined in sorrow and hope. Shadow looked up at him, eyes reflecting the dim light, a silent communion of understanding passing between them. In that moment, the past and present converged, the room alive with the fleeting dance of memories seeking acknowledgement. The bond between man and dog was palpable, a silent promise of loyalty that transcended time and space. As the lantern flickered, casting shifting silhouettes against the walls, John felt the weight of the town's history settling upon his shoulders. It was as if the spirits of Hollow Ridge had chosen him and Shadow as their vessels, tasked with carrying forth the stories long buried in silence. And so they stood together, united in purpose, the spectral silence broken only by the whispered echoes of lives that once were, as they ventured deeper into the heart of the mystery. The air in the mansion thickened as John and Shadow approached the hollowed corridor leading to the grand ballroom. Dust motes spun lazily in the muted moonlight, seeping through fractured windows, casting ghostly patterns on faded wallpaper. Each creak beneath their feet seemed to reverberate like a mournful sigh, a symphony of forgotten laments. Shadow stayed close to John's side, his ears perked, muscles tense, every fiber of his being attuned to the unseen presence that lurked in the shadows. John's heart drummed a steady rhythm of anticipation and trepidation, his mind caught between the pull of history and the present's lurking dread. Their journey felt almost predestined, as if the story of the Hawthorns whispered within their veins, urging them to complete the tale left untold. The ballroom doors loomed, carved oak etched with intricate designs that spoke of past grandeur now decayed. Hesitant yet resolute, John pushed them open, their hinges protesting with a shriek that hung in the air like a banshee's wail. Inside, moonlight pooled on the dusty parquet floor, highlighting the room's once opulent features now cloaked in despair. A grand chandelier, its crystals fractured and tarnished, hung precariously above, casting distorted reflections across the walls. As John stepped forward, his eyes caught the flicker of movement. A spectral figure, its form both ethereal and elusive, materializing amidst the gloom. Shadow growled low, a sound from the depths, primal and raw, acknowledging the entity that stood as both judge and witness to the unfolding enigma. For a moment, time seemed to suspend, an unspoken dialogue bridging the living and the beyond. The spectre, garbed in period dress, its features indistinct yet strikingly familiar, raised a hand, a gesture of supplication or accusation John could not tell. The air buzzed with unspoken words, emotions layered with centuries of longing and regret. In the spectral figure's eyes, John glimpsed a reflection of his own ghosts, echoes of choices made and paths forsaken. Shadow, ever attuned to John's unspoken thoughts, inched forward, his gaze unwavering, a bridge between worlds. The figure's lips moved, no sound escaping, yet an intimate understanding flooded John's consciousness. The story of betrayal, of love lost to greed and ambition, merged with John's own journey, binding his quest for truth to the spectral plea for justice. An unseen force seemed to propel him forward, his resolve crystallizing amidst the swirling vortex of emotion. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. A gust of wind, cold and biting, surged through the room, extinguishing the flicker of connection. The chandelier above began to sway ominously, its chains groaning under an invisible pressure. Shadows danced wildly, a chaotic ballet threatening to consume the room. John, instinctively protective, crouched low, whistling sharply to Shadow, a signal forged through years of camaraderie. Together, they darted toward the nearest exit, urgency thrumming through their veins, the spectre's voiceless cry, a haunting refrain in the silence. As they burst through the door, the chandelier crashed to the ground with a deafening roar, a testament to the mansion's insistence on reclaiming its secrets. Dust billowed in clouds of memory, obscuring the past and the present in a shroud of uncertainty. Outside, the night air embraced them, crisp and bracing, a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere within. John's breath came in sharp, ragged bursts, his senses heightened, each detail etched into his mind like a vivid portrait. Shadow, ever vigilant, scanned the surrounding gloom, his presence a grounding force amidst the spectral chaos. In the distance, the mansion loomed, its silhouette a somber reminder of the mysteries yet to be unraveled and the lives irreparably changed. As they stood beneath the star-strewn sky, a sense of resolve, tempered by uncertainty, settled over John. The journey was far from over, the echoes of Hollow Ridge beckoning them to delve deeper, to seek not only the truth, but also the soul's redemption hidden within the town's haunted past. The first light of dawn crept over the jagged horizon, casting thin shadows that danced across Hollow Ridge like whispers of forgotten souls. John stood at the edge of the town's crumbling main street, his eyes tracing the path they had traveled. The Victorian mansion loomed in the distance, its silhouette stark against the pale sky. Shadow stood beside him, ears perked, his breath visible in the morning chill. Each exhale was a reminder of the life they carried into a place heavy with the past, a sanctuary where death had built its throne. It was in this fragile moment, the world painted in shades of grey, that John felt the weight of the town's sorrow pressing upon him, a tapestry woven from loss and regret. As the light grew stronger, it illuminated the faded remnants of the town's former glory. The saloon, once the heart of camaraderie and whispers, now stood silent, its doors swaying gently in the wind. John and Shadow moved towards it, their footsteps echoing like memories brought back from the brink of oblivion. Each step across the threshold felt like stepping into another time where the ghosts of laughter and the clinking of glasses lingered unseen. Shadow paused, his nose working the air as if deciphering a language only he could understand. There was something here, tethered to the present by unresolved echoes of the past, a reminder of life interrupted by fate's cruel hand. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of aged wood and dust, a testament to years of abandonment. On a solitary table, a playing card lay face down, a relic of a game unfinished. John picked it up, turning it over in his fingers. The Queen of Hearts stared back, her eyes holding secrets that whispered of love lost and promises broken. Shadow's low growl reverberated through the room, a warning of unseen presences woven into the fabric of silence. The cowboy felt a chill, not from the morning air, but from the realization that every object, every shadow, held a piece of the town's story, a narrative waiting for its final chapter. The path through Hollow Ridge led them once more to the mansion, the heart of the town's spectral heartbeat. The ballroom, where they had confronted the specter of the past, seemed now to be waiting, its vast emptiness echoing with the promise of revelations yet to come. John paused at the threshold, the enormity of what lay ahead hovering like a specter in the air. Shadow pressed against his leg, a silent affirmation of their shared journey. Together, they entered the room, the grand space lit by the soft glow of dawn, filtering through tall, dust-laden windows. The light played tricks, sculpting shadows into fleeting forms of bygone dancers, forever caught in their eternal waltz. In the center of the ballroom, the air shimmered, and for a moment John thought he heard music, a distant melody stitched together by the town's lingering spirits. Redemption, it seemed, hovered just out of reach, a fragile promise in the light of a new day. John closed his eyes, breathing in the essence of the place, feeling the weight of its history settle upon his shoulders. Shadow's warm, steady presence beside him was a balm against the chill of the unseen. Together they stood, poised on the precipice of understanding, knowing that the road to redemption would require courage, patience, and the unwavering bond that had brought them this far. As the first rays of the morning sun kissed the earth, they knew they would continue, seeking closure and peace for the living and the dead alike. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the eerie, silent streets of the ghost town, John, the cowboy, stood with Shadow beside him. The whisper of the wind carried stories untold, secrets buried in the dust of time. Shadow, ever vigilant, had led them to uncover truths that lay dormant beneath the town's deceptive stillness. The landlord's sudden departure left behind a void, a lingering question of what truly governed this forsaken place. John kneeled, placing a hand on Shadow's head, feeling the warmth and loyalty that had guided him through countless unseen realms. In the silence, there was a profound conversation, words unspoken yet deeply understood. Their journey here had been more than an exploration of haunted whispers. It was a testament to the timeless bond between man and beast, an alliance forged in trust and shared resolve. As they left the town behind, its mysteries not entirely unraveled, John reflected on the essence of their quest. Sometimes the answers lie not in what we uncover, but in the journey itself. With Shadow by his side, John knew that their path was bound for even greater enigmas, where the echoes of the past would guide their relentless pursuit of truth.